and welcome to our fireside chat on Copilot Agents versus Power Automate, when to use the right tool. My name's Natasha Bradley, Director at Empower M365, and I'm so excited to be joined by Simon Doy, founder of iThink365. Simon, can you introduce yourself?
Hi there. Hi all. Thanks for joining us this morning. Thank you for inviting us onto your show, Natasha. It's fab. So I'm Simon Doy. I'm the founder of iThink365, and we specialize in helping people leverage M365 through their people and process, and AI is becoming an increasingly great way of doing that. So it's great to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. And you sort of led into my first point there, Simon, about AI is everywhere. So we're hearing a lot about AI, obviously, but we're also hearing the term around human in the loop. So
yes.
Can you explain what that means and why that's important?
Yeah. So because AI and this particularly in the Microsoft space, Copilot was the initial starting point. Where you've got using AI, to support you in something. So it's kind of you're driving the Copilot to do something. So you initiate the agent, the Copilot to do something. You're starting that process. Whereas as we move on, Copilot is also introducing, Microsoft introducing the concept of agents, and agents are doing something for you, but they can be triggered by an external activity, like an email coming into a mailbox, for example. And so because they are starting the process, we need to make sure that there is a human in the loop that's overseeing what that agent has done and approving it and making sure that what it's saying is right, because AI is very good, but it does get things wrong. And so having that human in the loop is really important to make sure that the agent doesn't send off information maybe to a customer or into a system which isn't right. It needs the human to approve it and check it. Just like, you think of an agent as a colleague, anything which we generally do for a salesperson, we're writing a proposal, we'll get other people to review that before we share it with the customer. It's the same thing for AI and agents.
And I think that's a good point to highlight that from an agent perspective as well, because I think a lot of people are seeing it as the sort of silver bullet to automation and take that human factor out. But it's good that you've raised that humans are still needed when we're talking about agents.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we all make mistakes as humans, but also as agents as well, as AI agents as well. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really good. So Microsoft have introduced sort of the next phase of Copilot, which we've touched upon as agent, Simon. So can you provide an explanation on what agents are and how they can benefit organizations?
Yeah, so sort of as I alluded to earlier, agents are the evolution of copilots. Really, they are to support us in a and I see them really take a business process. Like let's think of a sales process such as a lead coming in through your website. So a customer jumps on your website, they see something you're doing, and they're really interested in the M365 adoption. They fill out a form, and then that lands into your CRM system. Now, before sort of agents, you would have sales executive, maybe go and look at that person, find out what the company is, do some research on the company, and then reach out to them to find a date and time and understand what their challenges are. Well, you could start to use agents in that process to pick up on those repetitive tasks. So maybe then instead of the sales executive doing the research, you have an AI agent which looks up the person's email address, finds out who they are, maybe looks into LinkedIn, finds out what company they are, starts doing research on the company and bringing in news stories and who the executive are, using that information to populate your CRM, but also arming the sales executive with details on that customer so they can qualify whether they are the right fit as a customer. But then scheduling that meeting, again, you could have an AI agent help in that process, because trying to find dates and times with different people takes time. So having an agent doing that. So agents are there really to help break down and implement these repetitive tasks. And where it's going is you might have one agent which does sort of one piece of work, one activity, talking to another agent. Now, in the Microsoft space, that is still evolving, and Microsoft Build is in a couple of weeks, and we might hear a bit more about that then. So, but yeah, the idea that you can have agents talking to other agents to come up with an overall solution, and then pass that information, again, human in the loop, to the sales executives so that they can then take it on from there.
I mean, that'd be so it'd be so powerful, wouldn't it, to have an agent talking to an agent and then only having a human interaction at the end to check what they've done is an effective, like the teacher to say, well, actually that's correct, or we need to double check that. The speed that it would have to enable processes to be a lot quicker and faster would be immense.
Yeah, that's right. And then actually, often you might have like 3 agents. You might have an agent that does the work, maybe or 2 agents doing the work, and then a third agent which is the QA sort of manager agent.
Yeah.
So it then quality checks what's been done, and then says, yes, no, you've missed this bit, have another go. And the agents then work together again to come up with, give it the result, and it might take it a couple of goes, but you then have that quality check already happening, and then there's a further quality check by the human in the loop. So this is, we call it this sort of multi-agent sort of multi-agent process, really. So
no, I think that would be absolutely incredible. As someone who does a lot of research into industries, competitors, etc., that would be one heck of a increased output if I could have an agent doing it for me. So you've mentioned research, but I've also heard people mention deep reasoning. So what's the differences? Are they the same?
Yes. So you've got the evolution of these. If we talk about OpenAI models in particular, you've got the evolution of the GPT models through the 3.5s and 4s and GPT 4.0 and 4.5 now, and those transformer models are able to work relatively quickly, but they're kind of like a one pass thing. They will give you a result quickly. Then OpenAI introduced some new models, 01, 03, 04 as well, and those models, they're kind of see sort of these kind of deep reasoning, deep research models, and what they're doing is they're taking a lot longer to come up with a result, because you're giving it a bigger prompt of what you want it to do and how what you want the output to be, but they will go back a little bit, like I mentioned before, the multi-agents internally, they've got sort of, they're kind of multi-agent as well, that they do some work and then they then check to see if that result is what's been expected of them, and they'll go back again and until they get the right result. So you've got a much sort of much more similar approach to how we do research. We do a bit of research, then we review it, and then we go back and we do a bit more, and that's what these reasoning models are doing. And so Microsoft have launched a couple of new agents, the researcher agent, which have this deep reasoning in. It's incredible what you can do with these agents.
Where do you think, and this you don't have to answer this, but in your opinion, where do you think this sort of deep reasoning type approach will be in the next sort of 5 years? I know we're obviously, humans are in control, but
yes.
where can it go?
I don't know. It's so difficult. There's another Simon who has a statement. It's trying to predict the future is just is so hard. But I mean, they're always going to evolve to get better and better. They're going to get smarter, aren't they?
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast with the chief product officer of OpenAI a couple of days ago, and he was just talking about it was a scenario where he was talking to a movie director. He said it was a well-known movie director. I thought it's someone like Ridley Scott, something like that. But they have this thing where say they're doing a cut scene. Okay, they're doing a cut scene, and they will give a company like $100,000, come up with 2 cut scenes, and they have to choose one at the end of that. And where AI is going and leading, now they're looking at using things like Sora to create maybe 50 or 60 ideas for the cutscene. They still get that same company to do the work, but they give them a number of ideas of more steer, really, so they get the right thing. And and that's incredible, and that means they get a better result, and it saves time. And I think that's where these research models, they're going to get much more intelligent. They're going to have a much greater pool of information. And I think the thing is these research agents and being able to reason over information which is very specific to the organization which they're in. And I think that's where it has to go. There's a concept or a protocol called the Model Context Protocol, MCP. And what that does, that allows an LLM to sort of have a set of tools which it can talk to get more information. And we'll talk about this with agents, but that, I think, will start to open up more information which these LLMs and these deep reasoning models can pull in to be able to help get the answers which the user is wanting. So
very, 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 very interesting. So Simon, obviously I can see a lot of benefit between the agents, etc., but I've had lots of questions and conversations with organizations about, is agents just another word for Power Automate?
Ultimately, if you're building agents using the Microsoft stack like Copilot Studio, when you're building an agent, you have a trigger, and it is a Power Automate that is listening for something, an event. Could be, like I said, an email. It could be a message in Teams. It could be some event coming in from a website. And it's how you trigger that is driven through Power Automate, because all that infrastructure, all those, the Power Platform, it's got connectors to all these different systems. It's got this infrastructure already there. It'd be crazy to try and reinvent that. And that is Power Automate doing that. But when agents, where they really become exciting, is when an agent, you sort of give it a set of capabilities, actions. And when we'll do a demo around HR, a Copilot for HR. When you can give it a set of actions, and the agent then understands what each of those actions can do, it then starts to put them together to come up with a unique recipe. Now, Power Automate cannot do that. So for example, right, the demo will do, it will be, say you're booking a holiday, right? I'm going to book my holiday, and there's a very important day in a couple of days' time. There's Star Wars Day, May the 4th. Unfortunately, it's a weekend, but so it's not quite going to work. But we could say to it, right, who's off on the 4th of May, and so it will then have an action which tells it to find out who's off. Call me, and so the AI will call that. But we could then say who's off on Star Wars Day, and the LLM knows that Star Wars Day is the 4th of May, and it will call the action and take Star Wars and replace it with the 4th of May this year and fire it in. You could then say, well, actually, I want to book my birthday off, right? So then it has an action to find out what your birthday is, and an action to go and register that you want to book your holiday.
Yeah.
And so then it looks up and says, well, I've got this birthday action, so I'll call that first, and then I'll take that date and I'll apply that into the holiday request action. And so you start to chain these different actions together, and that's where the power of agents comes in. Yeah. But you're absolutely right. There are times where Power Automate and just using a sort of bog standard cloud workflow is the right approach. And then there's times where using AI is important. So, thinking through what the workflow is trying to do, if it's a case of, like, I don't know, a approval process for some purchase order, and you someone submits it and it says, well, if it's over £10,000, then it goes to this person. If it's £20,000, it goes to this person. You wouldn't use AI for that. There's no point.
Yeah,
You
so
could,
Power
but you
Automate.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
So it's just looking at your use cases and then working out which one is the right tool. But when it's reasoning over information and text and providing some recommendations, that's where AI is fantastic.
Comes in.
Doing those things. Yeah.
So, no, great. Yeah. That was a great explanation. And I know we talked about it before. Are you able to show us some demos of, when agents would be right and when Power Automate? And I know you can be both. You can use both of them together. But if you can just sort of give us, some demos, just so we can see that would be marvelous.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's do that. So I'm just going to share my screen.
The sharing of the screen will be okay.
Yeah, it'll be fine. So we go. Right. So when this shows up.
Yeah. Okay, so we can see Copilot for HR, yeah?
Cool. So this is a Copilot for human resources. And what we've done is we've loaded in policies and processes and procedures around HR into SharePoint. And we've set up a Copilot and we've sort of explained to it what it is, that it's helping people get answers to questions. And this will allow us to do things. You can see that I've already been playing on this previous day. So, where this comes really useful, and this is more of a Copilot thing, is that, we can ask it questions around, please give us a summary of the company handbook. What are the things that I need to be aware of in that company handbook? And it will go off and look through it can be a Word document, PDF, and give me a summary of the details in the company handbook. So that's great. And eventually it will do that. So here we go. And, we get all the links to the citations and in here. And sometimes, the thing about these AI is it's non-deterministic. So every time it's going to be slightly different. And if we think about that from a Power Automate and AI's perspective, that's something which, again, might be a decision you make to use Power Automate when you always want the same result every time. That might be a reason to use Power Automate or a more traditional workflow tool. But whereas AI wouldn't, it won't always be the same. So it's just something to be mindful of when you're thinking about how you approach a solution. Anyway, so this will give me a summary of the handbook. I have to say it's not the greatest response back. I'm just going to go back up to this one, which was a little bit better because that's bringing in all the sections and in our handbook. So we've got those answers, those kind of things. We can also hook these in, and this is where the agent side comes in a little bit. So this is talking to an action. So we've got an HR system, and we're talking to that. So a common problem or common question that employees have is like, well, how many days holiday do I have left? And this will use an action. This is using Power Automate to go and talk to an HR system and pull that information out. And we'll get that back.
So is this an agent or is this just a Power Automate?
This is a Copilot agent. This is a Copilot agent, but it's calling a Power Automate to get the information. All right. Yeah. And then the information comes back to it, and it's just like a table of data. And the AI of the agent is then turning that into something which is more consumable by
user friendly.
Much more user friendly.
Yeah.
So there, so you're sort of applying the two together then, really.
Yeah, that's
fab. So then I can then ask it, who is off in May? Maybe I want to book some book that holiday, and it will then have another action, a different action, which allow us to see who is off in May. Now, actually, who's off in May? That's quite an interesting thing. So how does it know what to do here? So, May is actually the 1st of May, 2025 to the 31st of May, 2025. the AI is doing that work to say, actually, I need a start date and an end date. So it's doing that work to work out what the user's meaning and then filling in the blanks. And so we've got Yvonne and Laura who are off in May.
Lucky things.
Should we try who's off for Star Wars Day? I think actually, unfortunately, because it's let's see what it does.
Yeah, see what it comes up with. See if it brings back, say, everyone.
So no one's off on Star Wars Day, but it like if we looked behind the scene, it would pick out 4th of May 2025.
Yeah.
And so who is off for Independence Day for our American audience?
Yeah.
And so let's see if we've got anybody there. But this is where, this is much more user friendly. Like if you think of sort of traditional systems, you'd have to go, right, that's the 4th of June 2025 and put that in. The AI is the agent is helping to just reduce that friction. And so we can do that. Coming into the another one, and this is now an agent process. We've got another Copilot, and this is around sales activity. Okay. And what we've got is a trigger. So this is what we use in the business. And I'm going to show my Outlook, which is probably a bit dangerous. Actually, no, I'll show it's my team. Let me do this. So if I go into chat here and see what we've come up with, and if I go into the sales team, and actually sales team into here, every Monday morning, I want to see which opportunities are coming up. And this is what the agent is doing. It is creating this email, which gives me a list of the opportunities which are due this week. And that is an agent trigger process.
Yeah.
And then we could then action something from that if we wanted to do. But that's an example of where an agent comes in. There's a trigger, there's something happening, and then it starts the process. Within this Napoleon, which is a Copilot for sales, we can use it again a little bit like with the HR. We can use it to help. I'm going to just get it to sort of reset the Copilot just so we're starting a new conversation. We use it internally to help our sales teams get answers to questions when they're in meetings with customers. So we've loaded in all the services and products which we do. And then the sales team can ask questions. So maybe a customer's got a particular challenge that they're looking to solve. So we have a customer who is looking to improve their communication across the organization. What can we do to help? So we've got that. So we start a conversation, and Napoleon's going to come back, give us some responses about the services which we provide and how it can help them, and we can start that conversation. So now we've got a list of things we can do. So we continue that conversation, and eventually, the customer is like, "Oh, actually, I'm really interested in a Copilot for helping my teams find answers to their questions, a knowledge Copilot." And so again, within the chatbot, we can have actions around different things. So it might be, I would like to create a sales opportunity. Okay, and this will then talk to dynamics. This is a sales opportunity for Empower 5, and the contact is Natasha. Okay, and it will then use that information that's in there to go and create an opportunity. And fill out that information. And if I then go into dynamics, we'll see an opportunity with that information. I then might then say, right, now I want to create a sales proposal for and then and so we then provide in the details of
And
the customer.
what's great is it's all done within your Teams window. So you're not having to go into Dynamics, you're not having to go into other systems. You can just do it within the Teams window that's accessing all the 365 applications and platforms.
Yeah. And we're getting like the list of the proposal templates and things. So, you can, get, it can be quite dynamic, and it then creates a Word document for that proposal. And so if I just drag that across here, you'll get a pre-formatted template. And so these are the kind of things you could do. And then we could then use Copilot now to go and do more to fill out this proposal. We can Copilot Word and away we go. So that's just some examples. Is that helpful?
No, fabulous examples. Fabulous. So the question probably that would be on my tongue next is, if I wanted to implement those sort of examples into my organization, how difficult is it to build an agent like that to support your sales team?
Yeah, so I think the first time you're doing it, it takes a few goes, because really what you're learning about is how to get the AI to work for you. So for example, the thing that I find is that these agents, what we need to be thinking about is not trying to do too much with them. That the Copilot and the agents, they do a specific thing, and they do it well. Think of it like a mobile phone app. It's got a specific purpose. It does it really well. When you try and have a Copilot agent do too much or reason over too much information, that's when you start to struggle to get the consistency and the conciseness and the results which the user is expecting. So
which is not going to be good for user adoption.
No, exactly, because they don't get the result that they expect, and then they go, "Oh, this is rubbish. I'll go use something else." So it's going through that learning process. So being able to describe, for example, what when the Copilot is reasoning over what we expect of it. What is it? What is it doing? What's it providing? There's the GCSE framework, which has been talked about, where we talk about defining the goals, the context, the source, and the expectation. So the goal of what we're looking to achieve, the context that this Copilot is using and this agent is working in, what the source of information is. So within Copilot Studio, you create these things called knowledge, and you describe to it what is contained within those knowledge areas. So if it's SharePoint, what kind of documents are in there? Because these are all helping the AI to kind of use the right information to respond back to the user. So it's important to get that right, and that can take some time, because you might think, right, brilliant, I've got it all sorted. The sales Copilot, this is the language I'm using. And then someone starts to use your Copilot, but they use different terminology, different language, and then suddenly they're not getting the results. And it's like, so it a lot of time is spending testing and go through the user adoption and UAT testing to make sure that the language is right and people are getting the results back. So the other thing
that's good. No, I think that's a good point you've made there. Even though the agents are automated, user adoption is still key to understand what actual terminology and how the user's going to interact with that system.
Yeah, and actually, Microsoft with the Copilot Studio agents and the agents which live within the Microsoft 365 Copilot, they have these conversation starters to help people, and spending some time looking at those and defining them for your agent will help people understand what is possible with your agents, and that will improve your adoption. It's investigation and trying things out. That's the way to go.
Yeah, no, really, really good. And it's still one of the sort of biggest conversations I have. Power Automate, Copilot agents, which tool, when. So in your opinion, how would an organization go about understanding which process is right for the right tool?
So if you could, I suppose you think of it maybe like this, where if you didn't know about AI, could you do that process, or without AI? That's where you're starting to think about whether to use Power Automate. The problem, that's how to use Power Automate without any AI capability.
Yeah.
But I guess it depends on it depends on that workflow, that process that you're looking to implement. Understanding what it's doing, mapping out having the process already mapped out, and maybe you've got a Visio diagram of how that process works and flows, and then looking at that and going, well, actually, are all these decision points, are they all sort of they all set in stone? Are they all deterministic? Is it a true and false value?
Yeah.
That's where you'd use Power Automate on its own without any AI. But there are things which you might say, well, actually, this process this process for, we talked about going through purchase order process. Well, we might sprinkle some AI in there, where yes, we want to go through a very defined, if it's 10,000 it goes to it goes to this person, 20,000 it goes to this person. But we might use AI to create a really nice email which gets sent back to the user, sort of explaining why it is that their request was rejected, or to sort of say, hey, great, it's all been approved. And we use AI to kind of make that more interesting, and give them more detail and more context, over the maybe the one word comment which somebody's said when they reject the purchase order. So
I suppose, or you could potentially, if you use Power Automate to send it to someone to get signed off, and then AI could go, well, that person's on holiday, so I'll push it to someone else. So the AI agent could then give the user a bit more richer experience.
Yes.
Than just Power Automate.
Yeah.
Which I think is quite
I think, and I think because as well, you are using Power Automate to kind of collate data and information, and then bring that data back again to the AI agent to reason over and take that table of information and turn something into natural language, like we saw with the holiday. Again, you're bringing the two together. So I think often doing using both. But yeah, coming back to, well, like, when would you use which? When it's something that's very deterministic, always know it's going to have the same outcome, then that's when you can use Power Automate on its own. And when it's something where it's not deterministic, it's kind of fuzzy, and maybe you need some guidance or some text content or decision process which it has got reasoning in it, that's when you're going to use these AI tools.
I think that's a great explanation, and easy for people to understand. And I suppose, just going back to your point about having the process mapped out, there's probably quite a lot of organizations who don't have their processes in a Visio diagram or mapped out. So potentially that's where they need to start, is getting the process on a bit of, written down on a bit of paper, and getting it into some sort of written format, so then you can map the technology against that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it makes it then, you can sort of just prove it out in your mind, and and make sure that it's going to work for you before you start to build it. There was a talk which we did. I'm part of a team. It's a community-based team called the Maturity Model for Microsoft 365. We did a session about 2 months ago, and that was talking about AI agents and how you might evolve an existing process into an agent or agentic process, which you start introducing agents into that process. So it might be a good one for people to have a look at.
What I'll do is I'll pop the link in the chat below, so people can then have a look at it, because I think this is a really hot topic on which tool to use when, and how to get the best out of it, especially when those words of driving efficiencies, etc., has become more apparent for organizations across industry.
Yeah, and and I think that ultimately where this is going, we will information workers, knowledge workers will end up having a set of agents which we orchestrate to do the things we need them to do, and they'll come back to us with information and processing these business processes, and we will have a number of different agents which we're working with to get things done, and that's going to help really boost our productivity. And I don't sort of see that it's looking to replace people. It might reduce the number of new people being hired because people can do more. But we've been on a very slow productivity journeys, for many years now, and this is the one thing which really could rocket that productivity. And we're also seeing organizations now where they would love to find ways to scale their business, but they can't because it requires more and more people, and that doesn't work. But now they're looking at AI to be able to transform their business and scale their business in ways which wasn't possible before because of AI and these agents. So no,
I think it's a very, very exciting space to be in, which I'm sure you will agree, Simon.
Definitely.
But Simon, thank you so much for your time. Demos were amazing as always. Guys, thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Simon and I. But everyone have a great day. Thanks, Simon.
Thanks very much, Natasha. Cheers all.
Thanks. Bye-bye.